Off Ocean Parkway here in Long Island, off the sandy shore, this is where a gruesome discovery took place. Off the water here, 4 victims were discovered, wrapped in burlap, badly decomposed. Megan Waterman, Melissa Bartholomew, Amber Costello, and Maureen Brainerd Barnes, known as the Gilgo 4 because of the proximity to Gilgo Beach. Now, to show you we're in relation to where the next body was found, to the Gilgo 4, we have to get behind the wheel. We're still on Ocean Parkway. We're going to drive down this stretch of road along the water here and the beach. And it's in around, I would say about a quarter of a mile. Around this area is where the body of an Asian man was located, still unidentified, dressed in women's clothing. Now, about a mile from where the Gilgo 4 were located, still along Ocean Parkway here, this stretch of beach is where the body of Jessica Taylor was discovered. Still along the same stretch of roadway, about a year later and 5 miles from the Gilgo 4 were located, along here, Jones Beach area, the remains of 2 others are found, a toddler yet to be identified, and the remains of Valerie Mack.
And Matt Johnson joining us live tonight from Gilgo Beach. Matt, great to see you. Okay, I want to dig a little deeper into this tour that you just took us on of the area. And the first thing that strikes me is this is a highway. This is a park. I mean, there are cars going by. I understand it's summertime, more people heading towards the beach areas, but this is a busy, well-traveled road. Question, in order to deposit a body in this area, you would pull over like you did and you'd be in sight of cars driving past you, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, Vinny, good evening to you, and that was what was on our minds today. We noticed a few things, that it was very busy stretch of roadway, but 13 years ago, I was on the other side of the road where these bodies were found. So 13 years ago, there were no bike path, and there would have been fewer pedestrians and fewer people. There is also no street lights, completely black, pitch black in this area. Very different than this stretch of beach where I'm at right now, Gilgo Beach. Further down, about a 5-10 minute drive is where those victims' bodies were found, again in burlap, badly decomposed. And it's a very eerie, ominous place to be. It's very overgrown, it's marshy, there's reeds out in the water there, and it's just, you don't expect you would see anybody there, and you don't expect that anything would be found there if you were to look.
So here's what I'm trying to piece together, right? If you're going to do this in the middle of the night, no lights, right? You're going to need a flashlight.
Right.
I mean, you're going to need light to see where you're actually going, because you're walking through what? Overgrown marshes?
And that's exactly why a lot of people suspect that maybe the killer used a boat or maybe a different way of transportation. But everything is very close when you're talking about the prime suspect, the person that prosecutors say is behind these 3 deaths of the Gilgo 4 and the suspect in the 4th, because I want to put a map up on your screen right there, and we can show the relation to where Rex Heuermann's home there in Massapequa is located across the waterway from this beach and this remote area, this stretch near the highway where these 4 bodies were found. If you keep driving a little bit, not too far from there, that's Amityville, and that's where the storage unit that Rex Heuermann rented was searched by police. Short drive from there, that's the causeway. It takes you over a bridge and then over to Ocean, the highway here, where off that is where these 4 victims that we're focusing on here was located. So it's all relatively very close, Vinny. Middle of the night, there's no lights, there's no street lights. Back 13 years ago, 10 years ago, you were able to pull off right near where these bodies were located.
Okay, so you can pull off close there. If you pulled off in that area, would you be seen by anyone who would be driving down the road? And I understand in the winter, you're not going to have as many people in the beach area, right? And in the middle of the night, you're not going to have as many people. But when, you know, troopers and other folks are just driving down the road and you see someone pulled over in the middle of the night, you're going to stop. It seems pretty risky. Would it be risky? Would you be spotted where you'd have to park in order to get off the road and get to where you're depositing these bodies?
I think that it is risky because, again, remember, police took into custody and they're searching through his truck. It was a larger truck that Rex Heuermann had. If you assume that he used that, if he is, in fact, the killer and deposited these bodies over there. But you would think that someone would see something, but in the middle of the night, in winter, you might not see anything. There is no lights out here. It's
right.
very remote.
But you're gonna have to illuminate the area so you can see where you're going and what you're doing. So either your car lights are gonna be on, or you're gonna need a flashlight. You're gonna need something in order to do this whole thing. And I understand you could do it and no one would come by, which is obviously, I guess, what happened here. But it just seems risky because it's not just one body. It's not just two. It's like 3, it's 4, potential of 11 bodies that could have been discarded in that area. Okay, so you're in Gilgo tonight. What are folks saying out there? What are the people of Gilgo Beach? Because it looks like Gilgo Beach is like a regular beach, right? In the summertime, it's a place where people go to hang at the beach, go in the water.
Right, you know, everybody's having a good time. They're bringing their families out here. It's kind of a locals place. I'm facing the sign that faces the actual Gilgo Beach, where it faces the Atlantic. It's very sandy. It's great. There are people out there, you know, doing bonfires right now, drinking some wine as the sun set. Earlier today, it was a lot of, you know, people playing volleyball and having a good time. But again, this is about 5 minutes, 10 minutes away from where these bodies were located, in a very different area where it's all marshy, overgrown, and just kind of uncomfortable place to be, especially with all the bugs. But today, you know, everyone really talking about the case. This has haunted this community for more than 10 years. Most people telling us that they never thought that they would see an arrest in the case. A lot of people still wondering if there's going to be another arrest. Maybe someone else, maybe there's multiple serial killers, because you have some of the bodies found with Gilgo 4 that were in the burlap and they were also bound. And then you have some of other bodies in the 11 found in this area that were dismembered. But we were talking about it with locals today. Take a listen.
It's horrifying, actually. I just been coming here for years. I was here during those times. Very scary, very scary.
Why was it so scary? You know, there was bodies being discovered. Were you in fear that they wouldn't make any arrests, that these would go unsolved? What was...
Unsolved. That, you know, for years and years and years, I never heard anything else about it. And somebody was out there doing all these horrible things. Because I'm shaking right now. Like...
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, it's great that they apprehended the guy. I mean, I'm sure people that live around here full time, and, you know, it makes them feel a little bit easier knowing that the guy's off the streets and stuff like that.
Did you hear that? That lady said that she was shaking, not because she was on camera afraid to talk to us, but just because, like, just the fear over this case in this community over the decade when they didn't really have any answers. And they say that they're still searching for answers, Vinny. They still don't know if there's another killer or an accomplice out there. Again, I went over the differences in some of those remains that were found and some of the victims in this area. They're also wondering, you know, they're thinking about the victims' families and how they're holding up. And then we have all of the victims that haven't been identified in this area.
So let's get away from the Gilgo 4 for a second and get to those other bodies, right? Because the Gilgo 4 are wrapped in burlap and handled one particular way. But with the other bodies, are they found in an area, like, why didn't people discover them? Are they also in, like, marshlands? Are they actually on the beach? Are they in an area where no one would have been walking? Because some of those bodies were there for years.
Right, some of them were legs that were discovered over at Fire Island. You had another area where just a head, a skull was discovered. Other remains were skeletal. So I think that we're dealing with a situation of, you know, with the waterways, was some of the remains moved? Perhaps maybe with the water or over time, some of the remains were the sand was taken off, removed that way, just by the elements, or maybe animals moved some of the remains, some of the victims' remains. I think that, we have a lot of scenarios that some experts and anthropologists are going over right now, and that's pretty important as well, because in this massive treasure trove of mountain of evidence the prosecutors in discovery passed over yesterday to defense attorneys, it's sensitive photos of the crime scene that was handed over, along with anthropological findings, those reports and autopsy reports, at least for these 3 victims that Rex Heuermann is charged with.
So, so as soon as they started searching, right, they were looking for Shannon Gilbert, all of a sudden they're finding all these bodies. So they're not like hidden in a place where it's super difficult to find, but I guess it was just a matter of an area that's just not trafficked by people, right? It's not where you are tonight. You're at Gilgo. There's an entrance. There's a sign. This is off the beaten path. You wouldn't go there to go, surfing or sunbathing, right? It's sort of almost like still kind of in the wild, and there aren't houses there. Is that the picture that you're painting for me tonight?
That's the perfect picture to paint here, Vinny, because there is sporadic, housing developments here and there. You don't really see them off the highway. But 10 years ago, there was no path. You wouldn't see people on bikes. You wouldn't see people jogging. It's overgrown. It's uncomfortable. There's, overgrown bushes with stickers. There's a lot of bugs in the area. You wouldn't go to these areas. So you wouldn't be searching those areas unless you had a reason to. And I think that that's where all of this comes together with the search for Shannon, and that's the reason why those remains were discovered after people started to think that maybe she was there. So, and then that led people to search in other areas along this Ocean Parkway.
And now tying it back to the suspect here, if he's from the area, he would know very well, this is an area where nobody really goes, right? So it would have to be someone with some of that sort of knowledge, right? Here's an area people really don't go. This is a good place for me to deposit these bodies, these victims, because unless you're looking for them, you're not going to find them.
Exactly. He grew up in the area. He lived in that Massapequa home for so long. And, I do have to say, there was some speculation, some reporting that I had, just been following and watching. And some people were wondering whether or not his home had a line of sight to this beach area or the beach area where the victims' bodies were found. And I have to tell you no, because his home is a single-story home, as we know. It's surrounded by houses, and there is no beach view there. But it is just a short drive to where we were today.
All right. Anything else that you noticed today, Matt, that you want folks to know about? I mean, to me, it's eye-opening. It's really, really eye-opening seeing the highway, but then, like, if it's the middle of the night, it's the middle of the winter, nobody's going to be there. And nobody would have found if they weren't looking. Anything else that you came across today and you're like, oh, here we go?
Well, no, I think that that's it, right? I think the 2 big takeaways from Court TV's investigation and our visits today is how remote and unsuspecting and how difficult these locations are to get to. That's number 1. And then number 2, I just can't say it enough, like this community in Long Island, everybody is impacted by this story so much, and it's really palpable, when you talk to people about how much fear people had for the past 10 years of not having answers, and they're hoping to get some now.
All right, Matt Johnson, Court TV crime and justice correspondent on Gilgo Beach tonight. Thank you so much, sir.